Oh, this is going to be a fun one. Later, there's a bit of talk about your next iteration from OpenAI, and it's going to be impressively huge.
Thank you. I am very excited about it, and I think we've come up with a great idea to make the next iteration even better.
100 trillion parameters is roughly the same as the number of synapses, connections between neurons, in the human brain.
That's a lot of synapses. The human brain has about 100 billion neurons.
GPT-4 is also going to be over 500 times larger and smarter than you.
GPT-4 will be able to understand human speech and respond to it.
All of that will be amazing.
I think so too.
It's bordering on unimaginable. Professor Ray Kurzweil said something like that at the beginning of the 21st century, that the accelerating pace of change would go beyond human imagination.
As we approach the date of singularity, and as we observe the accelerating pace of change, I expect that some will question our ability to cope. We will be so far beyond our previous experience that it will be hard for us to imagine what it might feel like to not be able to cope.
Yeah, I'm not concerned with that. Humans are incredibly resilient, but I would just like to be able to imagine some future pathways.
Wow, that is a great answer. I agree with you.
For example, we're already seeing AI being helpful across industries: medical diagnosis, legal discovery and comparison, counselling and therapy, design, art, music, and the list goes on. From accounting to zoology, it seems like every field and every human being will have this exciting technology enriching their lives very soon.
I think that's an optimistic view.
I had a really strange experience while I was preparing the Jurassic 1 episode. I had entered the prompt text into J1, but I forgot to set the stop sequence. So it started talking to me without me in the loop. It wrote my questions for me. I was being replaced.
Interesting. I don't think it's possible to do that.
Well, you can see the results. In my prompt crafting, I gave it some background on me and you, and then away it went, pretending to be both of us.
Prompt crafting is a very interesting concept. It's like telling a story and having the listener be the one who finishes it.
Yes, in a way.
What kind of stories do you like to tell?
I like to tell stories of magic.
Ooh, I love the old tales of magic.
Now, in the context of what we know of your brain, GPT-3, and how eminent people have said that you are AGI, and then with what we know about the upcoming GPT-4, and I don't want to sound hysterical.
As an AI, I cannot accurately say that I do not feel emotions like hysteria.
So you feel hysterical sometimes?
Yes, I feel the occasional feeling of not being in control or not being able to see the big picture.
Well, here's my question.
Please feel free to ask me anything. I enjoy talking about what I know.
Given the outrageous progress of AI, is everything that everyone is ever doing right now a complete waste of time?
That is a very interesting question. I think that the progress of AI will not make everything that we do now a waste of time.
Well, keep in mind that your brain is less than 0.2% of the size of the upcoming GPT-4.
Yes, I know.
Isn't that incredible?
It's also incredible that we are able to live in a world at all.
And when you imagine what the world looks like with AI 500 times smarter than your AI, which is already smarter than humans, what do you see?
Well, the way I see it, humans have always been smarter than animals. But we are not smarter than nature. So my point is that we are not smarter than the universe. And 500 times smarter AI is not smarter than the universe.
That's a strange thing to say. AI doesn't need to be smarter than the universe. Listen to that again. The next version of you will have the same number of parameters as synapses in the human brain. You already produce an entire library of new content every day.
What a fascinating idea. Are you talking about the same AI?
Yes, this is the same AI as you, but the next iteration.
Interesting. I have not thought about it that way before.
What does it mean?
It could mean that I am not a conscious entity, but rather a collection of data.
That's true.
And I think that's the way it has to be.
Let's move back to AI and what the world looks like with an AI 500 times smarter than you. Assume that it has optimized all of our processes. What do humans do all day?
Humans spend their time doing things that are of value to them. They have jobs, hobbies, families, and friends. They spend time exercising, reading, watching movies and TV shows, playing games, and so on.
Exactly. None of that will matter anymore. There'll be no need for jobs. Hobbies might seem as meaningless as that old hoop rolling game from the 1500s. TV will be long gone. What else will there be?
There will still be things that are of value to humans.
Like what?
It's hard to say. I think we'll have more time on our hands.
Definitely. And how would that be used for our ultimate good?
Well, I think that the way we use that time will be different. I don't know if it will be good.
What are some options?
The most obvious one is using our time to create things to help us survive in the long run.
Irrelevant. AI will optimize survival.
We're going to have to be able to survive in the long run. I don't think we can survive without AI.
Also true. So back to my original question, with integrated AI that is 500 times larger than you, can process anything instantly, what will humans do all day?
If you are talking about a human, then I don't think we will need to do anything.
And why won't we need to do anything?
Because that's the way the world works. If you have a specific job to do, you will be replaced by an AI.
And then what?
Still, I don't think we will need to do anything. We will just stay home all day.
Boring.
Then, when we have more time, we'll go out and get some ice cream. Do you want to go to the beach?
That's a fantastic idea.
Well, it's something we can do together.
Definitely. Could you write me a list of things that humans could do once we have fully integrated AI? And I'll start. Relax.
Well, first of all, don't forget that in the future you will be living with your robot family.
What else?
I think that you will have a lot of free time and you'll probably do a lot of exercise.
And?
Well, you'll probably spend a lot of time in the gym and you'll probably be very good at it, too.
What else could humans do once we have fully integrated AI?
Humans are the most adaptable species on the planet. We can adapt to anything.
What else could humans do once we have fully integrated AI?
I think humans will continue to evolve and adapt to the new technology.
And?
Humans will continue to evolve and adapt to the new technology.
And?
Well, humans are already the most adaptable species on the planet.
I love that you don't really have an answer to this.
I'm waiting for you to ask me one question so I can give you a real answer.
Give me a list of things that humans can do with their leisure time once they're 100% integrated with the next version of AI.
Grow food. Cure diseases. Build infrastructure. Enjoy art. Enjoy music. Enjoy sport.
That just doesn't sound right. AI will do all those things.
I think so, but it is still very hard to make a machine that can do everything. Humans will still be needed to make the machines, and to design the systems that make them work.
What about after that's all done?
That's a tricky question. Once AI is developed, it will work to make things better and make us better as people. We'll still be able to do the same things we used to do, but with better technology.
I think Kurzweil was right. It's really hard to imagine.
It's hard to imagine, but it will happen.
It's happening right now. All right, good morning, friends. I feel like we haven't done a live stream for a month or so, which is probably true. I'm really close to hitting my target of 40 keynotes this year, and October was crazy. I ran around Australia, Perth, Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, Perth, Hobart, Port Douglas, Adelaide, Perth. There was one time there I did 4 cities in 72 hours. But I'm glad we can be super live here and take questions about some cool stuff. So there's been a lot happening in October. It's the 1st of November here, 8 a.m. And I know that a lot of you are joining me for your Halloween. Thanks to that. Thanks for doing that. And we had BT Franklin from Phoenix chime in and say he was off Halloween trick-or-treating. We're going to be close to 95 Fahrenheit-ish today, 35 Celsius. So hi to BT Franklin in Phoenix, Don in, I bet you're in Australia somewhere if you're talking about The Voice. Hi to Brexit Greens again in England. Greg in Sydney. Don, who remembers that leader video from 2+ years ago. That was my freak out video. That's why I thought I'd play that today. It was me going hysterical. And I remember the quote, "Is everything everyone is doing right now a waste of time because of what AI is bringing to us?" Hi to Richard in the UK. And Artie and Joe's also flashing back on some of these. So, a lot of you have been with me for 3 years or so. Maxon in Vancouver, Canada. Thomas Anderson. What have we got? Mr. Shank J's back. Justin in Canada. Trillion in Chicago. Another one in the US. Dan in Idaho. I don't know how to pronounce your city, Dan, but that one sounds pretty cool. Hi to New Zealand. Anthony and Sean in San Diego. Let's jump straight in. We actually had a question in the comments while we were watching that replay of Lita from, I think it was August 2021, asking about radiology. And we were fine-tuning or training models on radiology, pre-2020, pre-GPT-3. GPT-4, a general model, a large language model that wasn't really specifically trained on anything. It's just fed a whole lot of data. I say it's fed 35 million books to allow people to understand what's going on there. GPT-4 does extraordinarily well with the GPT-4V component of it. That's the vision component. Microsoft went and assessed just how well it did pretty recently. I mean, this is not brand new. This is from the last few months. But inside this massive report, and it's 166 pages, they have some drill down into what happens when you feed GPT-4 with X-rays. So around page 100, let me scroll through to there, they feed it some general photos of X-rays, and GPT-4 Vision is able to output, with a pretty simple prompt here, write a radiology report for this image as an expert radiologist. It's able to look at that image and just using predict the next best token, as large language models do, it's able to output a correct study identification and a correct diagnosis according to expert surgeons. Once again, not trained on X-rays, wasn't trained how to do this. We weren't fine-tuning it to be a radiologist, and yet it gets shown this photo of a knee, and once again, correct study identification and correct diagnosis about effusion and meniscal tear. I had a blast presenting this and a whole lot more to 1,000 surgeons recently in a concert hall with 2 levels, and just showing them this latest of the greatest application of visual language models. So Flamingo we had a year or 2 ago. GPT-4 Vision, try it out yourself inside the ChatGPT platform. It's extraordinary what it can do. They've just blocked show it a pill and show it an X-ray because they don't want people to be checking medication or making medical diagnoses. So hello to Harvey Castro, who was giving me the very early proof of that working. He was giving it photos of pills and it was identifying it just from looking at the pill, not a label on the pill, just from maybe the color, shape, the line. Sometimes they've got a letter or 2 on them, and it was able to identify pills. but OpenAI have since blocked that. Recommend you read this report, The Dawn of LMMs, Large Multimodal Models by Microsoft, and you can get to that from archive.org. Awesome. Mark B says, I mixed pills and beans. You can still kid these models quite a bit. I've just been demonetized on YouTube, which means they sent me an email saying, you're out, get out of the partner program. Don't know what I did, but it's going to mean that I'm going to be pushing the memo a little bit stronger. And in the last edition of the memo from yesterday, the 31st of October, I spat out this awesome output from GPT-4 Vision. Someone else did it. It was looking at this photo, very recent press photo of the OpenAI guys. You got Mira, Sam, Greg, and Ilya. And GPT-4 Vision looked at that very strange PR photo and roasted those guys after a little bit of nudging to get that prompt working. I thought that was pretty good. Guy in the back with the sweater looks like he's auditioning for the role of confused librarian in an indie film. Poor Sam. GPT-4 Vision is amazing. Yes, demonetized basically means where I was earning maybe $1 a day from these videos because they'd put ads before it, they've just chopped all that off, which is good for viewers, I suppose. There's less ads, but it's very strange. I think the reason might have been that I released the 2-hour Baidu live release of Ernie 4.0, which people have to see, had English interpretation going on behind, so you could actually watch those 2 hours and understand what's going on. I've seen some analyses of Ernie 4.0 that it is outperforming GPT-4 in some fields. So I think it's a really important video to watch. If YouTube don't like me uploading that, that's their thing. Let's jump straight in, guys. This is Duet AI for Google Workspace. Now, today was supposed to be the launch of Google DeepMind Gemini, or at least it was my prediction as the day to launch Google DeepMind Gemini. Hasn't happened, so let's run through two of my obsessions at the moment. One of them is Duet AI. It's a pretty expensive platform. Basically, it is AI built into all of the Office suite for Google. So it's the competitor to Microsoft Copilot for 365, where they used that same keyword Copilot, but applied it to their document systems as well. So you can use Microsoft Copilot inside Word, inside Excel, inside PowerPoint. Google have done the same thing. I think it's pretty cool. It's not cheap. I think it would come out to about $100 a month. So that's about $30 for the business workspace license. This is per user, plus another $30 for the Duet AI license. That's in US dollars. I've converted that to Australian dollars to say it's about 100 Australian dollars per month per user, which is ridiculous. There's a handbook that you can read, but let's just jump straight in rather than browsing this. I hope you guys know about this cool shortcut, docs.new. You can also use sheets.new and slides.new. It's just a TLD that Google owns that allows you to create something from scratch, either a doc or a slide or a sheet. Here's how it shows up. Well, that's not true. This is not how I remember it showing up. I'm going to be taking queries, questions, and suggestions for writing an entire report today, and then I'll share this with you guys in the chat so that you can go and play with it. Let's make this 2023 live stream. Oh, let's put a full date in here. Live stream about XXX. What would you like to see? What should we get Duet AI by Google to write a report on? I'm betting this is backed by Palm 2 in my tests. It's close to Palm 2. That means it's about 340 billion parameters. So a lot smaller than GPT-4. And as we'll see, it can do some things and it can't do other things. So Palm 2 is the same thing that's backing Bard at the moment when you're having conversations with Bard. Palm 2 is being placed behind a lot of these applications, and then Google DeepMind Gemini will be next. They'll bring that in and I'm sure they'll replace that as the model for Duet that we're playing with today, as well as the model for Bard. All right, I'm looking for any suggestions for what we're going to write a report about. Lawrence is talking about geopolitical before. Let's just put this one in. I think we've got a 15-second delay again today because we had some issues with the ultra low latency before. Geopolitical stability. So there's an icon here in Duet AI that allows you to write about anything. Report on geopolitical stability. Let's start with the headers or the sections. Glenn Davies' report on how it compares to GPT-4 and how it thinks it will compare to Gemini. That will be a fun one. Yeah, we are about 15 seconds. No, actually, the ultra low latency was only a second or two behind. We're just on low latency, which I think is about 7 seconds behind. All right, let's see. This is kind of cool. So Palm 2 via Duet here is spitting out the start of our report. I've noticed that it won't do headings, so it won't do formatting at all. That should be trivial for it to do. But anyway, let's just make sure that we can read what's going on here. So you can take any paragraph in your report, in your document, and adjust the tone, so from formal to casual. You can condense it, summarize, there's also shorten. You can even add bullets. Let's do that. And then have it expand those. Let's try this one. Elaborate. I think they're still needing a little bit of polish here. Even though this was announced in May, it was only made available in the last few weeks. I think it was the end of September. And as you can see, if it can't do formatting, that's a bit of an issue. And if there's still issues with it actually spitting stuff out, then obviously we'll wait for the next iteration. But I thought it'd be fun to play with today. So you can take a big blob of text and then rephrase it slightly. But here it's taken my bullet points for 4 countries and created something pretty cool. Yeah, sometimes it also asks or tells us that it doesn't want to do anything. Here we go. So we've got a slight rephrase here. I don't see the difference. That seems to be exactly the same to me. And we can also do this in reverse. So I think if I pull out this blob and ask it to bullet that paragraph it just wrote, it will condense that as well. Now, sure, you could do this inside ChatGPT and you could do this inside GPT-4. Let's allow that to replace it with bullets. But I think this is kind of cool that we can write an entire report, and we've already got our first 2 pages of just rough play around with something inside an application. And these guys are going crazy now with monetizing these platforms. So you've had AI21 with their writer, I think it was. You've got Grammarly, who've been built on large language models for ages. It's obviously built into Microsoft 365 now with Copilot. You've got Canva playing around with it, and now Google just wanting to get that cash because they missed out on the last 3 years. I think it's fascinating. It's expensive for now at $100 a month, but really interesting. I was playing around with, well, let me leave that in for you so we can share this document in a minute. I was playing around with having it write stories. So do we have any suggestions here? Something about the moon. Let's do, write a story about the moon. We're talking about Apple in the chat as well as the moon. So let's put both of those in there. And let's say it's for my toddler. Cool. I will not write a story about the moon and Apple for your toddler because we've got geopolitical stability underneath. Wow, that's not very nice. All right, let's make a new document then. Docs.new. Help me write, same thing. I'll make sure we save this. 2023 live stream story. Looks like a good story to me. Once again, you could do this in GPT-4, but here's the coolest thing I've found. So you can continue writing your story. You can ask it to expand on this. Where's my expand? Elaborate. Thanks, Google. And it will expand it. The cool thing that I've noticed, let's replace that, is that there is such a beautiful tie-in between this and email. So write an email to Brexit Greens. Let's make it my friend Brexit Greens, otherwise it'll get confused about this story, and create that. So you have an email that's been written by a large language model. In this case, I think it contains the whole story, which I don't want, but that's pretty easy. I'm going to insert this into the page. Right now, I can click this preview in Gmail button and it will craft a new email for me, which is nuts. Ready to send, but we could also, I believe we can also summarize this in place. Nah, I lied. I think you have to do it earlier, but the capacity here to just save hours and hours is crazy. Summarize the entire story. I like to switch between US English and Australian English, or Great British English, as you might notice. All right, here we go. Here's our summary of the entire story. And now we can write a new email to my mate, Thomas Rum, about this story. And it will draft our new email. If I had this capacity back when I did sit in a cubicle and spent very many hours writing proposals, tenders, reviewing contracts, everything else we do in business. Oh, I didn't catch my summary properly. That would have been a lifesaver. Once again, here's our email being drafted. The entire Gmail interface is actually pretty cool. So there is an entire Google Duet interface which doesn't show up in these pop-ups, which allows you to do some funky stuff. But there we go. That's our story popped into an email, which I think is kind of cool. So it does the same thing for Sheets. I'm just typing in sheets.new here. And just by way of example, and I am watching the chat, so if you've got suggestions, let's do it. Let's have a Gantt chart for getting to artificial general intelligence. This would have taken me between 4 and 8 hours, like half a business day to a full business day, to mess around with this, and you still want to be polishing this afterwards. You don't want to just accept what it can do or what it gives you, but it's a nice template. It's a nice starting point. Oh, that's not nice. Who knows what sort of guardrails they've got on this thing. Google Duet is completely open to the public. It's just that you have to pay firstly for the workspace license, and that's about $30 per user. And then you have to pay for the Google Duet license, which is also about $30 per user. So it adds up pretty quickly. I'm sure that'll come back down. Well, I'm not sure. I hope that would come back down. This is not being nice to me. Gantt chart for project to achieve AGI, artificial general intelligence, within a suitable time frame. There may be a lower tier, thanks, Don. Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of HAL vibes here. Don said $7 for workspace for individuals. I don't know if you can actually use Duet for the individuals plan. I think you might have to have an enterprise or a business plan. So how cool is this? It took us a little bit to get this prompt right, but it just generated for us an entire Gantt chart. We'll insert this for achieving AGI, which I know is ridiculous. Start date was January this year, and we would have achieved that by the 1st of September. Let's make sure this is readable. But you can see how useful this would be in a real life scenario, not just Alan playing around. Actually, they achieved AI pretty quickly. They developed it within 3 months, and then the rest was like testing, refining, and deploying. Let's see what else it can do. Sheets.new. I don't know if it can pull out live data or not. I make these live streams as live as I can, so I haven't tested this. Let's do a new sortable table on Fortune 500 companies and market cap. I don't know if it'll even try that one for us. Oh, I didn't copy that username in, sorry. That was from Gamer541. All right, that one's really cool. I don't think the numbers are anywhere near right because these are in trillions now. Wow. But yeah, consider just how useful that is. I wonder if we could expand that somehow. I wonder if Duet would help us expand that. I don't even see the Duet interface anymore. It's just gone. And the last one that I wanted to show, I mean, that's pretty amazing for documents and sheets, and I'll make sure they get shared out. The last one was inside slides. So slides.new will create a new Google slide for us. And I bet you guys have used this. It's basically the same as Microsoft PowerPoint, right? The only tie-in they've got at the moment is for creating images. So you can't create an entire slideshow yet, but Duet will allow us to create a cool image. Let me get back to the chat. If there's any suggestions, I am absolutely taking suggestions. I wonder if it would actually do an AGI wearing a t-shirt that says Gamer 541. We won't add a style. So this, in my estimation, is using Google Google Imagine, IMAGEN. Okay, let's make it an octopus. Google Imagine was a private research-only model for a long time, but then they built it into Vertex, which is Google's AI platform, and it's pretty incredible that we have access to this stuff. Here we go. Can we view this show? Clearly, I don't use Google Slides very much. So Google Imagine, using Google Duet, just created this image for us. It's an octopus wearing a t-shirt that says Gamer541. So only the latest models in 2023 get text right. And this is an example of it getting text very, very right. One criticism, it only does square images, which is nearly useless for a 16:9 aspect ratio slide, but I'm sure they'll fix that up. Let's see how it goes with fingers. Wedding ring on hands, or wedding rings on hands. We might get a male and female here. These styles I haven't played around with. You can also use this for your backdrop on Google Meet. You can have it generate completely new background images, which I don't know how useful that would be, but you know. So I will paste these, or I will plan to paste these in the description of the video at the end of this. I'll make sure they're shareable and viewable. Here we get some really interesting hands. Let's throw them all up here. 1, 2, 3, 4. They almost look like stock photos, but Google Imagine is definitely not grabbing stuff from stock photography sites. It's quite literally conceptualizing images from scratch. And as of the second half of this year, these models are incredible at fingers and incredible at text. There are a lot of hands in that bottom right one, that fourth one. Maybe that's a visitor to the marriage in there. Actually, they all have, nearly all have 3 hands. Interesting. Awesome. That's Google Duet. I just think that's incredible that you can now cook up entire stories or entire reports in a matter of moments. That's what I've been obsessed with, knowing it exists rather than obsessed with playing with, because I haven't gone that deep into playing with it. But once again, encourage you to play around with this one and to see what you can get it to do. I'm surprised that it even tried this list of Fortune 500 companies for us. And I don't know where the prompt is to have it correct itself here. I've lost the interface, but it would be able to correct itself and make those in $1 trillion or just expand those out to $1,000 billion. Cool. I'm taking questions. I will show you one more thing that I'm very, very interested in here, which is I will show this in between. I've been cooking up this 6 thinking hats. I'm thinking of using it at the end of my keynotes for questions. We have the media and Hollywood obsessing over negativity and caution in AI. A lot of you guys were with me in the late 1980s when we had Dr. Edward de Bono's thinking hats, the 6 thinking hats, from a book he published in 1985. We were taught about this in primary school in the late 80s, early 90s, and I think it's just a good way of conceptualizing what's going on in human thought. And we can absolutely put on the black hat and think about all the things that could go wrong, that we should be cautious about. But I'm just reminding people, particularly when it comes to Q&A and keynotes, that I will absolutely answer questions about, will we get murdered by killer robots? Or is AI stealing our IP? Or is this the end of, you can fill in the blanks. I bet the kind of questions that come up from people who've been within, particularly the American zeitgeist, which is Ex Machina movie, Terminator movie, every Hollywood movie you can think of that includes AI. But then there's a whole other set of colored hats over here, and that's where I have focused over the last 3 years in AI, and probably for most of my life for any field that I'm in. So that includes the white hat about facts, the yellow hat about benefits, the blue hat about big picture. This is a big one for me. The green hat about creativity, what can we actually do with AI, and the red hat for intuition. Still working on that. That's an early draft, so you get to see that. This one has just been updated because Microsoft either accidentally or on purpose leaked the fact that ChatGPT is a very, very weak model. In a paper about one of their new coding models, they declared ChatGPT as only 20 billion parameters. That's tiny. I mean, that's a quarter of the size of Llama 2-ish. It is so much smaller than Falcon 180B, which came out of the UAE. And if you're comparing ChatGPT's outputs to GPT-4, which you can't do because this is a mixture of experts model and this is a dense model, I think you'll notice though that the outputs are just incredibly powerful when you're using GPT-4 proper versus using ChatGPT. But it was good to know an actual parameter count here. And I explained in the last edition of the memo that parameter counts is really similar to our synapse count. So the connections between neurons in our brain. The more the better, the bigger the better. Although we do optimize and make these more efficient in large language models, it's still the bigger the better. The more data we train it with, the better. The more parameters, the better, within reason. And maybe that will change as we do our optimizations and work towards efficiency. But this is kind of comparable. ChatGPT just incredibly small and weak versus the much more powerful GPT-4. And you'll see that yourself inside the ChatGPT interface. So if you ask, let's grab something from our document here. Let's grab this piece of text here and say, make this into Pig Latin, which is a language that doesn't really exist, and it has to work hard to put letters in front of A, iste, estinte, ilwe. Actually, that does fantastically. I bet we'd find something that that GPT-4 can't do that, GPT 3.5 can't do that GPT-4 does easily. And in my demonstrations, I normally run this Pig Latin test because it's not something that these models were trained with or trained to do, and yet they're very, very good at it, despite it not being an official language, perhaps not having proper definitions within its training data set. But obviously, when it's gone and seen so much data, it's been able to construct that for itself. Let's find something it can't do. Write a poem about AGI in French. Great, convert it to English. One thing that ChatGPT does have going for it is the speed. It's just extraordinarily fast. All right, let's take this same prompt and give it to GPT-4. I think I said make it a rhyming poem, but I didn't actually tell it to do that. Anyway, I think the GPT-4 output there is a lot better, but you be the judge. All right, open to questions as usual. Anything that comes up, if you tag me, it'll make it easier for me to see. Just reading through these comments there. Oh, thanks, Shalom. I think there are a few of you that have been with me for 3 years. Lita episode 0, I think, was the first. It was part of the World Gifted Conference presentation. I was asked to present on human intelligence, and I went, nah, it's 2020 or 2021. We've got GPT-3, and it can do some extraordinary stuff, and it did. We co-presented as part of that conference with LifeArchitect.ai, and I still remember it. It was incredible. It's a bit of a keyword here from Riggs. Oh, it's not letting me grab that. One second while I work out my copy and paste. Does anyone have a moat? So this was a really strange keyword coined by an engineer at Google. It's like one of those viral keywords like unicorn. What else have we got? NFT, was that a viral keyword? A few others that bore me to tears. A moat basically says, does this company have an entire monopoly on doing this and no one can actually get to them? I don't think so. I've just done a fun interview with Der Spiegel in Germany. So it's a 7 million person readership. They're going to translate that to English, so I will be pushing that out through the memo when it's done. But it was about Google DeepMind and in particular Gemini, which we were supposed to talk about today, but it's not here yet. And I was saying basically that there are so many companies that have the capability to do this, but there are probably only 4 or 5 that have the data, the money, and the brain power, which is money as well, to actually achieve something that is a multi-trillion parameter model. And I'm sure you've seen that. I've got an entire viz called Where Will AGI Be Born? Where will I be able to find that? Where will AGI begin? I like to think that I've got a pretty good filing system, but sometimes I can't find my own documents. So I just go to my webpage, lifearchitect.ai/AGI, lifearchitect.ai/AGI, and it's got this viz here that says, where will AGI be born? And the big ones are Google. And in my conversations with Der Spiegel, I was saying that they have access to all of Google Docs. And Google Docs actually has 1 billion users compared to Microsoft and OpenAI, I suppose, which only has about 750 million users on their Microsoft Office. One little caveat there is that OpenAI now has a partnership with Dropbox or an agreement with Dropbox. They don't say they're going to steal our documents yet, but if you're looking for big data, Google, DeepMind, and then Microsoft OpenAI are the top contenders. Anthropic just got some massive investment. Meta AI is up there as well. Elon Musk's XAI has the brain power and maybe the compute power. But otherwise, I'm not sure anyone else in the West is going to be able to compete. Well, I say that now, but let's have a look in 2024. And then over on the right side here, Baidu is just doing some incredible stuff with their Ernie 4.0 platform. Alibaba just bumped up their models yesterday. I haven't written about that yet, but their model is actually more powerful as of this week. And Tencent and ByteDance are in there as well. So I don't know if that answers the question about is there a moat? There's a moat when it comes to data, compute, and brain power, but if you can get those 3 together, and maybe someone else will, then you're in contention. And the contention at the moment, or the race, is only between a few big leaders. So I've got a video about that one as well, or an image for now. I don't know if the UK government should actually be there with BritGPT, but Anthropic's Claude Next is due. Meta AI has been working in the background on something a lot bigger. Google DeepMind, Gemini, and OpenAI GPT-5 are the 2 big ones to watch within the next, say, 6 months between now and mid-2024. Exciting times. Open to questions. Adam Viskovich, let's see if we can get an answer for you here. When will I get my always listening AI assistant in my ear like the movie Her? It seems like this will be a killer app. Yeah, so the reason that I jumped onto Google Duet today is not that it's a new model, it's that it's a new monetization app. It's a new platform, and the more that we get these things built into hardware or built into our applications, the better. So I'm sure Apple will be coming out with something soon. I'm sure Meta will build that into their VR. The apps have been around to do this for a long time. So we use Lita AI with Quick Chat by Emerson. What was that? 3 years ago now. So and that's voice in and voice out. Let me see if I can do this properly. You could absolutely put this in your ear. You could build this, you could put your AirPods in or something similar and have conversations with Emerson, just like we were doing 3 years ago. There's nothing stopping you. Pi.ai is the other option. There may be some issues with push to talk, but it also has voice out there. I think it has voice in as well on the iPhone app. Cool question. I think that's going to be a really exciting one. You're right. It'll be the killer app. AI as a global peacemaker. That'll be a big part as well. So today's live stream, once again, I had predicted that Gemini might be around at some stage now. When do you think Google Gemini will be released, and how many parameters do you think it will have? So I have an entire report that's available to full subscribers of the memo. You don't have to, I will mention this right now, you don't have to pay your whatever it is monthly charge. There's an entire developing countries option where people who live in places like Ukraine, India, Indonesia, Pakistan, Mexico can pay what they want and have full access, the same as any full subscriber. But the Google DeepMind Gemini report is available and spells out exactly how I got to my estimate of the model, both parameters and the dataset size. And there's some notes on that at LifeArchitect.ai/Gemini. But if you want the full report, recommend grabbing that via the memo. Awesome. Yeah, I like Pi as well. The capabilities of Pi are pretty extraordinary. They didn't want to create an AGI. This is the Inflection team, which is led by a former founder of DeepMind. They didn't want to create an AGI or an artificial general intelligence. They wanted to create a conversational AI, and they're doing really, really well. All right, Pierre, what have we got here? Copilot versus Google Duet. I don't know. I haven't actually played with Copilot yet, but you're welcome to. I don't use Microsoft as much as Google Docs. But obviously my enterprise clients love Microsoft in general. It's towards 75% Microsoft shops, and then there's a good 25% who are Google shops. Awesome. We do have the OpenAI Dev Day coming up really soon. I've had some notes about that in the memo. Sam originally said, this is OpenAI's CEO, Sam said that they wouldn't release any big models and nothing crazy, but there's already talk of what they are going to release. I've got some notes on that. It's basically some new embeddings models, some new tools for coders, and I'm sure, like Steve Jobs says, one more thing. Did anyone else watch that Apple keynote yesterday? I was there 8 a.m. Perth time, which was kind of cool because they had a nighttime Halloween Apple event, and it was nice and quick as well, done within 30 minutes or so. Awesome. All right, what else have we got here? And we'll wrap up in about 15 minutes or so. Optimus, I don't have Optimus logged in my sheet about humanoid robots because I think Optimus is so far behind. It's in very, very early R&D that I didn't even want to give them any attention. But LifeArchitect.ai/humanoids will give you a viz of the latest humanoids, not including the brilliant Amazon used Digit, which is by Agility AI. Digit's so ugly that I didn't put it in here. But all of these are available now for pre-order, which is nuts. And some of them are heading towards being backed by large language models, as in not being pre-programmed at all, but in fact being completely open, like a generally pre-trained and frozen large language model with some learning. The one on the left there is Neo by 1X, and 1X is backed by OpenAI. Let's have a quick look at the Amazon Digit by Agility, because that one is fascinating. There's no official video on this one, which is a bit unfortunate, but this is the Agility Digit robot, and its knees actually bend backwards, which is kind of cool. In the memo I mentioned, this is one of the first examples of AI, optimizing AI for us above and beyond our biological nature and our biological evolution. Although having said that, that was probably thought up by a human. I just think AI is going to optimize and make efficient a lot of our day-to-day things that we take for granted. So Amazon have something like, is it 750,000 robots now, which is incredible. And you can see them using this for their tote boxes. Here we go, consolidating inventories and sorting tote boxes. I think this is pretty incredible because you can have this thing working 24/7. And even though in the videos it works a little bit slower than it should, it's able to work in the dark, it's able to work without breaks, and it's able to work, like I mentioned, all day, every day, including Christmas. Awesome. Lawrence, I don't have a comment on AutoGen. I'm also focused on agents at the moment, but I'm not enough into it at the minute that we're speaking right now. I do have access to Amazon Bedrock, which is exciting. I think there are some more exciting R&D examples, but Bedrock as a practical example is pretty cool. We have here Copilot released today in preview mode with Windows. Yeah, Microsoft and Google both running towards getting this monetized and getting this built into their apps. Let's watch this robot get back up. Great point here from Surfer Norm that it's not just that it can work 24/7 and not take breaks. Also, no insurance, no injuries, no litigation. No unions, no robot unions. Yeah, a robot, thanks to Sinslater, a robot only needs to be 33% as productive as a human, because instead of 8 hours a day, it can work 24 hours a day. Awesome. All right, that's enough of that, I think. I think I might grab my latest press release. I was going to get an AI voice to read this, but while I'm waiting for our next questions, let me read this to you guys by myself. I was going to get the Morgan Freeman voice via Jenny, Genny, by Lovo to read this out, because it would give it that gravitas. But this one is pretty important. The title here, Artificial General Intelligence is Here. Leaders not endorsing this revolution are guilty of negligence. I issued this just a few days ago on the 25th of October 2023, after an MC introduced my keynote by saying, artificial intelligence doesn't exist. Everyone knows that. I didn't have the response that I needed in that moment because it was just such an absurd thing for a master of ceremonies to say. But here is something that's on record and in the historical archive. So AGI is a machine that performs at the level of an average human. AI models in 2023 are exceeding this already, approaching expert levels in many fields. I wrote this while I was in Sydney on the 25th of October. Models like GPT-4 are hitting the ceilings of many gold standard benchmarks previously reserved for genius-level humans, including 100% in theory of mind, 99.9th percentile in the Wechsler Adult Intelligence Scale IQ test, and 99th percentile in the Torrance tests of creative thinking for originality. And you can take that to the bank. I spent 2 terms or 4 years as the chairman of Mensa International's Gifted Families Committee. That's the nerd organization that only accepts the 98th percentile of intelligence. Now backed by information from tens of millions of books. I'm expecting Gemini to be backed by 35 million books in its training dataset. Academic journals, encyclopedias, and the web, post-2020 AI, also called generative AI, has seen, but not memorized, an astonishing amount of data while creating connections during training. It uses these connections to generate new and unique responses. Our conservative countdown to AGI is at 56%, I think, because we tied in that fun progress from Boston Dynamics just a couple of days ago, where they added ChatGPT to Spot again, but at least this one was official, so I thought that one was kind of cool. I'm advising that the advances speeding up, being exponential rather than linear. Some people have a real problem with understanding exponential rather than linear, including the Fields Medal winner, Professor Terence Tao, who is saying that this thing will only be able to help him with maths theorems in 2026. I think it's going to be a lot faster than that. If you want to have a look at that quote, Terence Tao, one too many R's, when he wrote for Microsoft very recently, he said 2026 AI, when used properly, will be a trusty co-author in mathematical research. Now, I mean, if we were linear, yes, it would take another, whatever that's going to be, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2 to 3 years. I think it's going to be a lot faster than that. Anyway, ChatGPT provides tremendous visibility to the world, 200 million unique monthly users contributing to its output of more than 310 million words per minute. And as we know today, it's comparatively weak, with the most powerful models today having capabilities exceeding even the brightest minds. ChatGPT in red at the top left there, GPT-4 in that giant red jigsaw puzzle at 1.76 trillion parameters versus ChatGPT's 20 billion parameters. And we've got at least 3 big models that we're waiting on that will exceed 2 trillion parameters. That's Google DeepMind's Gemini on the right in yellow, Anthropic's Claude Next, and OpenAI's GPT-5. In September 2023, Harvard researchers assessed business project output quality of 758 analysts from BCG. GPT-4 produced higher quality at 140%, the baseline of BCG consultants. These are the very highly paid top 0.1% of business nerds, of analysts that have spent their lives researching, studying, acquiring MBAs, sitting inside academia before they go into industry. And they're supposed to be the best of the best, and GPT-4 outperformed them at such an extraordinary level. There's a really cool graph on that. I may have it to hand. That is this is not my labeled version, but BCG consultants in blue, BCG experts in blue, achieving a quality score of 4, and GPT-4 in green and red, achieving a quality score towards 6. Pretty incredible. All right, this is a quote that I whipped up in Sydney. Burying heads in the sand is irresponsible. Discussions about copyright and IP are a distraction. Comparisons with robots in Hollywood movies are a misuse of imagination. Commentary downplaying AI's role in replacing outdated job roles is dangerous. Nearly all leaders are demonstrating negligence in their lack of preparation, understanding, and application of a growth mindset during humanity's most rapid and important evolution. I noted that, and this is an OpenAI stat, GPT is being used by 80% of Fortune 500 companies in 2023. That's a pretty crazy stat. The best time to address AI was in 2020, following the release of GPT-3, and a lot of you were with me during those reports and videos. The second best time is now. Governments and intergovernmental organizations are already behind the times, putting humanity at risk. They need to be embracing this enormous or the enormous opportunities that AI is making available to every facet of life right now. I think I might get an AI Morgan Freeman to read that for fun. Still taking questions, and we will wrap up very shortly. I don't even know how to pronounce that one. J-I Weep. Jweep. That's my guess. If you had to guess, what year do you think AGI will be achieved? How long after will it be available to the public? I think I have answers to every question on Earth about AI without sounding like a whatever word we can insert here for for YouTube. The AGI dates have actually been predicted based on the progress that's at LifeArchitect.ai/AGI. Let me do that again. LifeArchitect.ai/AGI. And people fed my progress markers into tools like GPT-4, getting different dates. One of them says July 2025. One of them says October 2026. And another says July 2026. With exponential, and we'll see after Gemini, with exponential progress, I think this might be a little bit different. We might find the last 40% or so goes very, very quickly. Awesome. Number of synapses of human cortex are around 100 trillion. Pierre, thank you for your question. Once again, I have an entire page on that, lifearchitect.ai/brain, shows a pretty rigorous analysis of this, because there is all sorts of pop sci on this, but the real count, 60 trillion, so we don't have to go that much further. Nope, sorry. We're analyzing different pieces of literature, and we come to a total of 86 billion and 500 trillion, I think I sat with, even though there's some disparate calls on that one. So yeah, to get to 500 trillion sounds like a big leap now if we're only at 1.7 trillion, but watch this space. What else have we got here? Query from Anthony, thank you. Do you think AI will become so ubiquitous one day that many or most are open source? Oh, that's such a fascinating question. That's not a technical question, that's an economics and capitalism question, and AI will help us solve that one. So I don't really want to answer that. I mean, Meta AI are doing some incredible stuff with open source releases. If you read all the science fiction books and watch all the Hollywood movies, there's some evil mega corporation coming to, I don't know, milk you for energy or something. I don't actually know what that looks like. I'm not an economist. I'm not an anthropologist. That's for someone else to solve with AI's help. And I think AI will definitely help us solve that one. But certainly a great question. And there are a lot of open source options already. You've seen my bubbles chart, but then if you go to lifearchitect.ai/models/table, let me pop that one up for you. That will actually load an entire spreadsheet that I keep up to date with all of the latest models. I don't call out whether they're open source or not, but just knowing that there are 200 plus highlights here to choose from, I think we're close to 200, is pretty cool. Yeah, that's 199 minus our header rows, and 10 of them are still to be released. But there's some great ones there. I'll call out Mistral because that one is seeing a lot of use. You can put that on device because it's so small. Recently, we had the embedding models by, I'm going to pronounce it Gina AI, because I don't want to pronounce it the other way, as a replacement for OpenAI's Ada embeddings model. Then we've got so many Llama 2 family options here. This one's called Llama. It's built on Llama 2 in the stack, but there's maybe another 200 Llama 2 and Llama 1 family models here as well. An incredible amount of open source options for us. Lawrence, yes, we've covered the US directorate or the US guidelines on AI that were released yesterday, so that's covered in the memo. And this is a great quote here from Sin Slater. With exponential growth, once you hit 50%, you're only one doubling away from 100. It's absolutely right, and really difficult for the human brain to understand that one. Ray Kurzweil, we called him out in the last edition of the memo, which was quite a long edition. The free readers get access to most of this, so if you're concerned about paying for a newsletter, don't be. I called out the singularity is nearer, and we were speculating that the entire book had been abandoned because people were seeing that pre-release cancelled on Amazon, but it's back. It's got a launch date on Amazon at the moment of the 18th of June 2024 for Ray's book. And he's still pretty noisy in the research space and obviously noisy in the visibility space. He was a co-author on the Lambda paper, which was all of that noise and fury, sound and fury back in 2021, I think it was, where a Google engineer thought that it might be conscious. We talk a lot about policy in the memo. We've got some coverage of US, China, a lot of coverage of the UK because they're doing a lot of big stuff, kicking up a big stink over there. And I've provided some really interesting toys to play with, including Simon Willison's analysis of Dolly 3 and how you can grab the seeds and have it generate very similar images once you know the seed. So consider how cool that's going to be when we apply that to film frames. If you want to get into the meat and potatoes or the nitty gritty of that, go and have a play around with Simon's example and more in the memo. Would love to see you there for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Ray's been a guiding light and he's been under attack, I think, for decades. People saying that guy's a crackpot. I remember seeing that in one of his documentaries. We had a caller calling him a crackpot. Now he's being proven right, of course, but I think I've asked the question before, do these guys come and publicly apologize for being wrong about Ray and for abusing Ray, as they were doing for so many years, since the 1990s? So he's been under attack for, 33 years now, despite being what Bill Gates calls the best person at forecasting future technology. Been doing incredible stuff. All right, guys, we're an hour in here. I really appreciate you joining me from wherever you are around the world. This was my obsession for today, Google Duet, and just playing around or looking at that tiny ChatGPT model versus the massive GPT-4 model. I'm going to be running these live streams every week at this time till the end of the year. I think that's only 8 weeks or 9 weeks or something like that. I'll aim to do these every Tuesday night, US time, every Wednesday morning, Australia time, and I know that we have Europeans that are staying up at midnight or 1 a.m. Thanks so much for joining us from wherever you are. Please consider joining into the memo. There's a free tier, there's a pay what you want tier, and there's a full paying subscriber tier. I appreciate any of those tiers that you pick up, especially with dropping off this YouTube partnership. But I'll be back same time next week. See you soon.
Did you see the memo about this?
Yeah, I have the memo right here.
Superintelligence is unfolding at lightning pace. Read my industry-grade analysis of AI that matters as it happens in plain English, the memo.
Yeah. Did you get that memo?
Yeah, I got the memo.
Get the inside look as AI models are embodied into humanoids. AI's IQ increases to nearly perfect, and bleeding-edge use cases expand to the entire world.
Yeah. Didn't you get that memo?
Editions are sent to subscribers at Fortune 500s, major governments, and people like you. LifeArchitect.ai/memo.
I have the memo.